In this session, I will share with you what I call it the 7 level of presentation. In any presentation that we do, whether is it to a group of engineers, entrepreneurs, students, or so on and so forth, we have to go through, we must really know which level of presentation are we doing. What I'm basically saying, it is what is the objective of your presentation. It's like if you're driving a car and without knowing the destination, I think we wouldn't go anywhere. So before even start prepare any speech, you must know what is your objective or what are your objectives. And I term it, there are 7 different objectives, or I call it the 7 level of presentation. Most presenter or novice presenter focus on what I call the 1, 2, 3 level, which is good enough for some, but it is even better if you can move up the rank to the level 4 and level 5 presentation. It doesn't mean that those people who are focusing on level 1 presentation is worse off than level 2 or worse off than level 3. It doesn't mean that. What I'm going to share here is a standalone. But most people focusing on this part, that's why you see a triangle where the base is always the mass people are doing this. And you can differentiate yourself if you move your presentation up a different length. So what exactly is the first level of presentation? What is the main objective of your presentation? And I can tell you, for most people, their objective of their presentation is this. It's to inform. Most people, the level of objective that they are doing is to inform people. This is what I call the newspaper or the reporter. If you are a newspaper or a reporter, what does newspaper do? And what does a reporter do? Reporter basically just report what is being said by someone else. They are basically reporting information. Newspaper do the same thing, exactly the same thing. You know, they just write down and give you the most current information. So, in order for you to, before you start, you must know, hey, is my speech about giving information? Yes? If you're presenting a speech on how to craft a presentation, then you're basically in this form, to inform. But is there a level above it? Yes, there are. The level above it is what I call the second objective, is to entertain. To entertain. Is to entertain. So I recap. For the first one, objective is to inform, which is all the newspaper, right here. Newspaper or the reporter. A reporter or a newspaper, or even the newscaster, the person who is reading out news to you at every 6 o'clock in the morning, or every 7 o'clock in the morning, or 7 o'clock at night. Those are the newspaper. They are reporting something. They report the latest, the most current news. The objective is, there is only one objective. The objective is provide you with the information. And this level is mostly most presentation are on. If you're not providing information, what are you providing? Correct? You are providing information to them. And the next level is what I call the entertain, to entertain. Some presentation that you watch, you know, it is very educational, but it's damn boring. And do you think that engage your audience? No. And that's why you have to have this, is to entertain. This is the area where the stand-up comedian, stand-up comedy, humor. But one important thing of the objective to entertain, never miss the main objective. If you were asked to present a presentation, I'm sure most of the time, it is because there is some information you want to share. Unless you are doing a stand-up comedy, then there's no information you want to share. Your whole presentation is just to entertain your audience, and then there's no required information that need to be shared. Do not focus on entertaining and forgot about the information, the message, the core message you want to share with your audience. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this important word. Humor is a means to an end. Means to an end. It's a means to an end. Use the humor skill as a means to provide information to your audience. Do not provide entertainment, just entertainment. Provide them with information, and if you can, entertain them as well. For me, if you look at me, I do this particular video with a yellow color, green color, and the framework and so on and so forth. Actually, part and parcel is to engage you, and part and hopefully I can entertain you as well. That the information I shared here is just not about information, but I hope to achieve that I can also entertain you as well, because it's something different, right? And when you entertain someone, people laugh, their guard are off, they become more relaxed, they get more comfortable, they get used to you, they like you. And if you are able to entertain them, they are able to absorb more information. But what is the next level? The next level is what I call to persuade. Yes. Persuade. What does persuade means? Persuade simply means you want to convince. You want to convince someone to agree, to accept, or to understand your ideas through a certain reasoning or certain facts that you provide or certain emotional stories that you share with them, to convince them to accept, to understand your ideas. So you can see there is a huge difference between to persuade and the next level. The next level, this persuasion is usually from a buyer to convince you, for a seller want to convince you to buy something. A salesperson need to persuade you. So, is your wife will need to persuade you to do something for her. So, that is what I mean by persuasion. I'm so sorry about that. So what exactly is the next level? Provide some incentive to do something. Next level is to what? Yes, to motivate you. So in all my presentation, what I'm trying to do is, yes, I want to give you some information and hopefully entertain you as well when I'm delivering the information. But at the end of the presentation, I always end with something to persuade, a call to action for you to take action. But there is a fine difference between persuade and motivate. But what exactly is the difference? If persuasion is trying to persuade you, to convince you to agree with them, but to motivate, it is really about providing providing an incentive for you to take action. And usually motivation is for your own self-interest. So I want to write down here, this motivational usually is for your own self-interest. Persuade, yes and maybe no, for your own self. They just want to persuade and convince you by laying out the facts, by laying out the the thing for you to say yes or no, to persuade you to buy something. But to motivate is mainly for your own self-interest, for you to discover what is the self-interest for you. And next, up the ladder, inform, entertain, persuade, motivate, and this is what you usually hear people say, is to inspire. Yes. S-P, inspire, R-E, inspire. Have you listened to a speech and you think, wow, that speech is so inspirational? So you must determine whether when you are preparing a presentation, are you trying to inform them, entertain them, persuade them, motivate them, or inspire them? But what exactly is the difference between inspirational and motivational speech? So there are three things. There are, for inspirational and motivational and persuasion, there are this thing called the emotions and logic. You probably heard this phrase before, that people buy on emotion and justify through logic. And if you want to persuade, motivate, and inspire people, you just have to use emotion and justify it with logic. So in these three categories, it's focused more on using emotion. You're using anecdotes, using stories, using a quote or something from someone, a stories that can actually appeal to the emotions of the audience. And the higher you go, the more emotion you have to inject in your presentation in order to inspire them. But the real difference between motivation and inspiration, it's inspiration is a presentation that appeal to a noble motive, to a something like it's a more higher level of belief and higher level of it's a higher level. How do I say? It's a higher level of beliefs. Noble motive, higher level of belief and achievement. Noble motive, get you out of the bed, fellow shared interest. The real difference between motivation and inspiration is motivation is provide someone incentive to do something. For their self-interest. Inspirational is one step higher, where you inspire them for action. It's through a noble motive higher than self. Okay. The real difference between inspirational and motivational, if motivation is provide the audience with the incentive to do something out of their self-interest, inspirational is to provide motive for the audience to do something beyond their self-interest. Whatever that is shared, it's appeal to a noble motive, to a shared desire with a noble motive, which leads you to a higher level of belief or higher level of achievement. That is inspirational. It's no longer just finding an incentive to meet your self-interest, meet the audience self-interest, but something beyond yourself, something that is noble, something beyond your belief, beyond your interest, beyond your belief, and beyond your achievement. Which means when John F. Kennedy gave a speech on 1962, He says, we want to fly a man to the moon. Or we want to be the first to fly the man to the moon. In 1962, John F. Kennedy said the speech. And 7 years later, exactly 7 years later, in 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped foot on the moon. When JF Kennedy was telling everyone, or the Americans, that they want to fly to the moon, they want to step foot on the moon, and to be the first one to do that is like, it was when he gave the speech on 1962, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, the Soviet Union have already started their discovery or their space race to the moon, and they have started 4 years ago than the Americans. Americans is 4 years behind it, and to say that, it is almost impossible. It's almost beyond the achievement, beyond the belief. And to fly to the moon is a noble motive to prove that they can do it. So on 1969, July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped foot on the moon for the very first time. It takes 7 years. That speech by John F. Kennedy is people call inspirational, beyond the belief system, and it's for a noble motive, not for his self-interest, not for other people, but for noble motives. That is an inspirational. But these two that I'm going to share with you is probably not going to be so common, because these are the 5: to inform, to entertain, to persuade, to motivate, to inspire. This happen in a normal presentation, whether it is a 5 to 10 minutes presentation or to 1 hour, 2 hour presentation. But in order for you to achieve these two, it really needs a couple of days, or in fact more than a couple of days. So what I'm talking about, the 7 level of presentation or 7 level of a programs. If you run a program and the program can achieve these two, I think you have already made it. So what is this? This is what I call to transform. Transformational. Have you heard of people saying, oh wow, your program is transformational? But you probably haven't heard people say, hey, your program is your speech is transformational. No, your program is transformational, because transformations requires the audience to achieve a change, a mark, not just a change, not a small change. The key words here is a miraculous or a mark or a radical change. Change in a miraculous, a marked change, a radical change in these 4 things. Let me use a different color. The first thing is the change in form, change in nature, change in form, nature, behavior, appearance. Basically what I'm saying, when someone say your program is transformational, which means your program is create a result that has a change in form. A change in form. After I attended this program, I went out for the next 2 years. I created my own business and I grew my business from leap and bounds and created a lot of money. Is there a change in form? Yes. After attending a program after attending the program where I would help, or how should I say? After attending a program to change my outer beauty, I have a close friends. Her name is Sheila Wong. She's actually a image coach, image consultant. He helps women in particular, actually men as well, women and men as well, but most of her clientele is women, to change their appearance. The tagline is changing from outside and inside as well. So It's a transformational in appearance. If you're attending image training from Sheila Wong, you get a transformational in your appearance, both outside and inside. He will show you how to do a makeup, how to wear proper clothes so that you can stand out from the crowd. Change in appearance, but it doesn't happen in just a few days. It could happen in a few days, but it usually happens in the longer term for it to be sustainable. So it must be transformational. Seldom you see people say, if your presentation is transformational. No, your program is transformational, because programs goes through days and some weeks and some months and some stretch through coaching period where they go years, and they can achieve the transformational effect. So is your presentation or programs focus on just information, just to entertain, to persuade, to motivate, inspire, or also to transform them into something different, a behavioral change? Create a behavioral change in your audience that is permanent in terms of change in the form, nature, behavior, or appearance of your audience. Would you be able to achieve that? And the last is transcendental. And the last is to transcend beyond time and space. Space, not understandable consciousness. Transform, transcend, connecting to God, cosmos, energy, transcendental. The last level, the pinnacle of the 7 level of presentation is to transcend. The last level of the 7 level of presentation, reaching the pinnacle of a presentation, is what I call to it's what I call to transcend. To transcend beyond the time and space. And it is not understandable by a limited mind. It's transcend beyond time, basically beyond time and space. Beyond time and space. And the key thing is, it is beyond a limited mind. And this to transcend. If your program provides a transcendental program, which is a program that transcends beyond the consciousness, the current level of consciousness, it's connecting to a higher self, connecting to your higher self, connecting to a higher power, connecting to your consciousness, connecting to your God, connecting to your Allah, connecting to your higher self, something that is beyond understandable by a limited mind. So if your program can achieve a transcendental, which is most likely the prayers, the Buddhism or meditation, those programs that kept you thinking that it's a journey for you to connect to the higher level self, for you to become your highest level self, right? To achieve a higher level of consciousness and beyond what is understandable by a limited mind. And if you can achieve this, it is the highest, what I call the highest level of presentation. And these two requires, it's just not, that doesn't happen in just a few, it doesn't happen in just like 5 to 10 minute speech or even 1 to 2 hours. It is a journey of transformational and then subsequently transcendental into a higher self. So this is what I call the 7 levels of presentation. First is to inform, basically it's a newspaper, followed by entertain, And remember, entertain, create jokes is good in a speech, but make sure it is a means to an end, which means it is used to enlighten the audience so that you can properly inform them and keep them engaged. But it is not the real objective of just to entertain, unless you are in a stand-up comedy world where your objective is just to entertain. Must make sure information is a must, followed by your information move them into action. And I will usually end my presentation with something motivational, which motivate to their self-interest, or it will be something that is inspirational. Usually, after I presenting a great bunch of information, call to action, I will share a story that is inspirational and motivational for them. It's either appeal to their self-interest or beyond their own self-interest, belief and achievement, to a noble motive. Then after that, if I were to conduct a program like this one, I hope it will be transformational, that can create a radical change in your presentation skills, in change in the form of your presentation skills. And last but not least, if you can achieve this transcendental, which is you lead people to somewhere that they can find their higher self, I think that is the ultimate level of a presentation. For that, I end this presentation, the 7 level of presentation, and you choose yourself which level you are in, which objective you would try to meet. If you can meet a few of these objectives at the same time, and I can tell you most presentation, this is a must. And if you can, you add persuasion, that will be better, and end your story with end your presentation with something that's inspirational and motivational for the audience. If you create a program, you will have to reach these 2 other pinnacles. Other than that, I wish you all the best in your presentation journey, in improving your presentation. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.